Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of On the Sports Clock. I'm glad to have on Lindenwood University Division I head women's basketball coach, Amy Eagan. Amy, last time I talked to you was at the airport in Clearwater, Florida. I don't know if you remember that. I had just moved up here and I was flying back to Springfield. I'm from Willard, Missouri, and it's kind of hard to get into Springfield, Missouri from the big airports. And so flew via Allegiant to Clearwater, and it was cool. Got to play hockey with my old teammates. And we played at like 10 o'clock the night before, got out of there about midnight, and then was on that. I think it was like a 6:30 flight. And I saw Drury's team was on the flight, and you and I had a nice conversation. So I don't know if you remember that or not.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. At that time, Tyler, I didn't know I was speaking to a legend from Southwest Missouri. You know that. So I'm really excited to be here with you. And it's such a small world, right? And that's kind of the cool thing about coaching, and the cool thing about athletics and being in the athletics world is that you just get to meet so many really neat people and spend some time with some great people, getting to know them and expanding your inner circle and having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, and so speaking of that, you've made stops. You played at Truman State. You were inducted into the Truman State Hall of Fame in 2012. You started off your coaching career at St. Ambrose. You went to Ashford University, then your alma mater, Truman State, then made the jump to Drury University there in Springfield, where you went 87-9. And in 2021, Drury was the national runner-up. You bring a career record. I had it written down, and I apologize, but it was a winning record.
Either. I've been coaching for so long.
But you made the jump to Division I, March 28th of 2023. You were named Lindenwood's head coach. So you made the jump to Division I, and Lindenwood recently made the jump to Division I. I think, was it 2018 is when they made the jump, somewhere around there? So relatively new.
Yeah, this year is our third year of it. So we've got this year and next year, and then, we'll fully be there. And we've made all the right steps and gotten cleared every year. You kind of have to go through the process of that with your athletic department in your school. And every year we've had the last 2 years had great results. So we're heading very, very strong, I think, into year three, and excited for what year three is going to be, and get through this transition, really. And we don't even really look at it as a transition, because we've already got a lot of things set in place that we need to have set in place in order for us to compete and to win championships. And that's, a part of the reason they hired me there, is to rebuild that program and make it into a championship program.
And speaking of that, so you bring back a promising sophomore in Ellie Bruggeman, and a leading rebounder in Justice Odom. Kind of talk about, as a freshman, Ellie, I saw the numbers, and it was especially the 3-point attempts, 3 points made, and then it just kind of she led in almost every category, it seemed like.
Yeah, Ellie is one heck of a player. Whether you're talking about work ethic, her character, the teammate she is, man, that kid can flat out stroke it, And early on, I think in the year, she was really, really putting up some numbers, and a lot of that is because people hadn't figured out who she was. And if you watch any of our games and you get to the middle of the year and on, they couldn't leave her. You just couldn't leave her because of how well she shoots the ball. And, she also battled a little bit of some anemic situation last year with stuff. So she was sick a lot of the year, just ran down a lot of the year, and probably because we were asking her to do so much. But she's back and healthy now. And man, I can't wait to see what that kid continues to do in our program. But she definitely had a phenomenal freshman year, making second team all conference with it. So she's got a bright, bright future ahead of her.
Yeah, and talking about non-conference, so I know the non-conference schedule hasn't been released yet, at least when I checked this morning. Don't know if you're at liberty to maybe give us a little insight into what that's going to look like or not, but don't mean to put you on the spot, but curious what that might look like.
Yeah, absolutely. And, last year, the schedule that we stepped into, I didn't feel was it was beneficial to where we were at with the program, and we filled a whole new team last year, had 11 freshmen on our team. And, we were coming out of the gates playing Cincinnati and Minnesota and, a bunch of teams that I felt like we just weren't ready for that level. This year, I think our schedule fits us a lot better in regards to, we're going to be challenged and we're going to have the ability when we're challenged to figure out a lot of things that we need to figure out with where we need to head offensively, where we need to head defensively. Sometimes when you play teams that are you just can't compete with, it's hard to find out what you're really good or bad at, right? And so last year, I think it took us a lot longer than we were hoping to figure those things out. But this year, I think we're going to figure a lot more of that out in the preseason. So, we're tipping off. We play usually two, we call them, money game types things where we get paid to play. So we're playing Kansas this year, and that's who we'll tip off with. Who had a phenomenal year last year with it. And then, we'll come back home a little bit, and we have on some home slate, we have Evansville coming back, who we had a good game with them last year. We added Omaha this year to our schedule. We got Alabama A&M. I just think we got a lot better non-conference schedule that, again, is going to challenge us, but also games that we're going to be able to compete in.
And looking at the conference schedule, so last year you started off against Southern Indiana, who won the OVC, and you start off with a win. The season 7-21 overall, 5-13 the conference, but I counted 10 games where you all lost by 10 or less, and so very close to being 17-11. And with the group you had, it sounds like things are on the up and up for sure.
Yeah, that's hard for us to think about, but also exciting, with stuff. And, the way I think about it, and the way when we kind of reprocess and go back through the year, we just had a lot of youth, and when it came to stepping up to make plays, they just hadn't learned how to do that yet. I think we're in a much better position with that now, with having some experience, understanding the game a little bit more, IQ wise, all that kind of stuff, that, when we get to those games and we get to those situations, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable with it. So, I think when you look at that, that's exciting, because after last year, you always worry now about the portal and where things sit, and that, we kept the core of all the kids that we wanted to keep on our team last year. So we're returning 9 kids that saw significant minutes. I think we're returning four starters, but 2 of our top scorers. So we're really, really excited about the direction we're headed. I think we did great out of the portal. We added some really good talent out of the portal that's going to fill some spots and some needs that we were lacking in last year, and that we feel like we had to get better at. So I think the future is really, really bright. And we already started, obviously, summer and preseason, and it's been really great with this group, and I'm really excited for this year.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're bringing me back to my college basketball days with being a manager at Missouri State and then GA at Loyola Chicago. And I wasn't a head coach, but I can kind of empathize with kind of that transition, inheriting a situation. We were talking off the air about my first year at Loyola, and then the whole deal with Cheryl Swoops, and they brought in a whole new staff. 10 players walked off, and we were 2-27 or 2-28. We beat Chicago State and Illinois State at home, and that was it. The schedule, I remember we played at Pittsburgh, at Miami, and it was just like, can we catch a break at some point? Coach had a 5-year plan, and they ended up going to the postseason her last year. They ended up not renewing her contract. She's at Detroit Mercy now, Coach Kate Octor, but definitely built that program. Sometimes it takes time, but it sounds like you've got the right people in place to do it fairly quickly.
Yeah, I really believe that, and I've always been about that, surrounding myself with great people, first and foremost, that can help you either build a program or sustain a program. And, we had talked a little bit earlier, and, when I was at Ashford, they hired me at Ashford to rebuild that program. And so I've been through it before. I knew everybody. A lot of people after season were like, oh, 7 wins, like, you doing okay, because you're used to winning so much, and
Yeah.
I've been through it before. I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew what it was going to look like a little bit. And like you said, there's a lot of excitement with, losing 10 games by 10 or less points with it. So I'm excited for the direction in the future that we're headed with everything. I think we've got the right people on board to do it. And I think we've got the right situation in regards to Lindenwood's commitment to what we're trying to do here.
And I am curious too. So when I was at Loyola, we utilized the city of Chicago to our advantage. We would always take recruits like downtown, take them to like a Lou Malnati's or what was the steak place behind? I can't think of it. I could never afford to go there. Morton Steakhouse, I think. So we really wanted them to embrace the Chicago experience. Maybe not necessarily someone we were bringing in from the suburbs, but I remember one recruit, I think we brought her in from Indiana or Ohio. It's somewhere in there. And she had never been to Chicago. So we really tried to basically make it a vacation. So St. Louis, it's not a Chicago in terms of size and things to do, but there's a lot of cool things to do in St. Louis. So do you do the same thing there with take them down to the Arch or show them the downtown, maybe taking a St. Louis Cardinals game or is it more just the traditional show them campus in the surrounding area?
Well, honestly, Tyler, I mean, if you have been to St. Charles lately, St. Charles is the place to be. I mean, it is most of the time if we get people to St. Charles and we can show them, historic Main Street where they celebrate all the holidays and it's such a tourist place. And then, they just built the new, Fifth Street where they have all the new stuff with chicken and pickle and that kind of stuff. I mean, we don't really feel like we have to go into St. Louis to show them the Arch and the St. Louis Cardinals and that, but we do talk about those things, I think our kids, if you asked our kids, and I know recruits ask them, how do you like living here? What do you do outside of basketball and that? They'll very honestly say they don't have to go into St. Louis because they have everything in St. Charles that they need and want. And I think when you look at families, when they bring their family and their parents, there's so much to do in St. Charles. And it's such a beautiful area that they don't feel like they have to do that. But we definitely do sell St. Charles for sure. St. Chuck is what we call it, but we definitely sell it and we definitely show them if that's something that's important to them, we definitely show them the sites there.
Awesome. I've never been to Main Street, but I've heard a lot about it. I kind of stayed downtown. Sometimes I go over the river. I think it was Cahokia, Illinois. There was a golf course and golf over there, but would have liked when I lived there to have explored St. Charles. I heard it's a beautiful area out there, so I'll have to make my way out there sometime.
Absolutely. Hey, I'll be your host. You know that. I'll take you around. I'll show you everything.
Yeah. The other thing too is in terms of the upcoming season with the travel and all that. I know Lindenwood, this is you said the third year in Division I. Is the travel? I mean, is it like your typical Division I? Do you try to play? I say typical Division I, and there's a lot of charter flights, or are you all trying to keep the schedule, kind of Midwest, so you can bus everywhere, keep the lower cost? What's kind of the what's kind of the situation with the travel aspect of it?
Yeah, we try to put ourselves in a position to be successful, and so when you're talking about non-conference games, if that means we need to travel to play the teams that we need to play, we've got that full support. Obviously, I think there's a lot of teams in the Midwest that we can play, that we can compete with, and show well with. So we're very fortunate and lucky with that, that our travel is not bad at all, if you want to call it bad. But we are the OVC. When you look at the Ohio Valley Conference, the conference we're in, it's a busing league. I mean, our games, you ask even our kids and our staff, I mean, most of the time we're home by 6 p.m. on a Saturday because, our travel's maybe 3 hours. We just don't have a lot of far trips. And so that's nice. When you talk about family and you talk about spending time away from basketball a little bit, you had the ability to do that as a staff. And so it's not bad. If we need to fly, we're very fortunate that our airport St. Louis Airport's about 10 minutes away from campus, so we can get in and out really, really quickly with stuff. That also gives us the ability with recruits to get them in and out really quickly. But overall, it's a busing league, so we bus as much as we can.
Yeah, and looking at the OVC too, I remember in baseball, some interesting places. We played at SEMO, we played at UT Martin, and I'm just saying this about UT Martin. I don't know what your experience was down there, but we stayed at some hotel. And I remember telling Coach Lusk, I said, yeah, we're going down, because I was working with baseball and basketball. And I remember telling Coach Lusk, I said, yeah, we're going down to UT Martin this week. And this isn't a knock on them, but he goes, have fun with that. There isn't much going on. And we had to walk. We stayed at some indoor-outdoor hotel, and we had to walk a mile just to go get something to eat. But the campus, the facility itself, I remember telling some of the guys, I said, this campus has a lot of ability. If you get, the right people in here, there's a lot of ability, so but outside of that, it is a strong league. At least I follow the men's side. I know Coach Korn really well, the men's coach at SEMO, and they just went to the tournament. So the OVC, definitely a lot of respect there, at least from my end.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at it, whether it's women's basketball right now, and, I've been in it a year now, I think the great thing and the exciting thing about the Ohio Valley Conference is their commitment to basketball. I don't know about the other sports because I'm not in those meetings and that, but they want women's basketball, men's basketball, they want them to continue to climb. And so they're really taking, I think, a lot of steps to try to make that happen. And, I think you said it right. Like a lot of times, a lot of the towns or cities we go to within the Ohio Valley Conference are not big. And sometimes it's hard to find places to stay. But the campuses and the facilities of a lot of those places are really beautiful. So it's a great league. I think it's a great league for Lindenwood to come into and to start this process with, for sure. And now we just got to build it, and that's what we're doing. And that's what our goal is, to win championships in the Ohio Valley Conference and cut down some nets for sure.
Absolutely. Last two things here. In terms of the fan support, I'm sure you've been doing a lot of getting out in the community, getting the players and out in the community. What's kind of the fan support been like ever since you came to town and the staff has come to town? And getting out in the community is obviously very important. What are some things you've done with that as well?
Yeah. Well, first, it's been a little bit of a transition for me with that, because as you know, when you talk about Drury and our fan support there and our boosters there, and you talk about any of basketball in Southwest Missouri, right? The love for basketball in Southwest Missouri was so great. And we were filling stands and having people travel to games with us and, all those kind of things. So it's definitely been a transition for us. I think we've done a lot of really great things already in the community. I think we're continuing to do those things to build that relationship. And that's what it is, right? Is building a relationship, getting people to fall in love with your kids, getting people to fall in love with your program. I think there's a lot of steps we got to continue to do with that, but we are doing that. Our one of our games last year on New Year's Eve, we had the biggest crowd probably they've ever had, of about 1,500 at the game. So that was really exciting and really fun, I think, for our kids to play in that atmosphere. But, we definitely need St. Charles to jump on board, to continue to jump on board, to continue to support us. As, right now, maybe we're not across the board, we're not winning as much as we want to, but I can tell you, if you look at the transition that's happening and the winning that's starting to take place, we're getting there. So we need them to continue to support us, to show out, to support us through some of this tough times, because there are going to be some great times that come with it. I would also say, if you saw, football had the biggest crowd that they've ever had last weekend, with about 4,700 people that showed up for the game. So it's getting there. And we want to continue to build those relationships and continue to get people on board, because I do think, that's what that makes the atmosphere so fun, right? And not just for the players, but also for the students, for the people on campus, for the community. It just makes it a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I'll one other thing, just to kind of give you a good laugh here. That second year at Loyola, And that's great about the fan support. The reason I'm bringing this up is it does sound like the fans are very supportive. But we had, I think we averaged, they didn't even put the attendance in the thing, or they would make it up. They put like, 126. There weren't 126 people. And I'm not trying to knock on Loyola. It is kind of, I shouldn't say funny, but so Sister Jean would come to all our games, and she would sit 14 rows behind the bench. And I would always turn around. It would be about, she'd be into it about the first quarter. And then I would look in the second quarter. I'd always turn around about 2 minutes into the second quarter, and she'd always have a book she was reading the rest of the game. And I only say that to say, it was opposite on the men's side. She was into it. That's not, I love Sister Jean. She's awesome. But it was just kind of funny. So I say that to say, I haven't followed Lindenwood. I will be, but the fan support's definitely there. I can tell you from experience, and it will get better. And Loyola's got better too. I think they sold out 2 years ago for the first time, so that was kind of cool to see on the women's side. So the support's definitely there and going to get better for sure. It sounds like.
Yeah. Well, and I think right now, Tyler, probably as well as I know that, women's basketball is on the rise in regards to the level of play. Caitlin Clark has done, and so many players at that league have done so much for the women's game that, they're starting to sell out WNBA. I think it's transitioning to the college game a lot. And I think the talent's just going to continue to get better and better. So I'm really excited this year to see who stands out, right? And who's going to be the next Caitlin Clark, who's going to be the next Angel Reese, with those two gone, what it's going to look like. I think that's going to be exciting and interesting, but you definitely know somebody's going to fill those fans. So, for us, I think it's a really exciting time for women's basketball right now across the board. And I'm hoping that transitions and continues to transition to St. Charles. And we want to fill those stands, and we want to get people to come out. And, I also think I'm so big on, our kids just being great people and being great mentors for the youth. And I think right now we need a lot of mentors for our youth. And I think our kids are great at that. They'll spend time with them, whether it's at camp. Our camps doubled this year from last year. And I think that's because we just have great people in our program that really want to spend time with those kids and be mentors for them.
Well, Coach, it's been awesome. Hope to have you on at some point during the season. Best of luck. I'll definitely be following you all. I'm going to root for Lindenwood. I promise you this. And I have to say this because I will get chastised in Springfield if I don't, except for tonight when they play Missouri State at football. And then if you all happen to play Missouri State in non-conference, Missouri State's my alma mater. So I can't root for Lindenwood during that, but I'll root for you all outside of when you play the Bears. How's that sound?
I love that. I'm down here and plan on going to the game, and I love Southwest Missouri and the people in Southwest Missouri, and I have so many great relationships and so many great friends down here, as I know you do too as well. It's just a really special place. So I will be cheering for Lindenwood tonight, but I always keep track of those Bears and obviously the Lady Panthers and so forth with it.
Definitely. Well, Coach, thank you again for your time. Enjoy Springfield, enjoy the game, and hope to have you on at some point again.
Thanks, Tyler. Have a good Saturday.
You too. Thanks.